If you're taking a calcium pill for osteoporosis every morning to keep your bones strong, you need to hear this. A 2023 study from the Journal of Women's Health Research found that long-term use of a common osteoporosis medication increased breast cancer risk by 31% in postmenopausal women. Now, before you panic and throw your pill bottle in the trash, let me tell you something. I've seen many women make that mistake, and their bones actually crumbled after 6 months. The truth is much more complex than drug bad, cancer scary. Here's what really shocked me when I dug into the data. The risk isn't the same for everyone. Women who took this medication for under 5 years, almost no increased risk. But after 7 years, the numbers spike significantly. And here's the key point. Most doctors, including myself for many years, don't even discuss this time frame with patients. We just say, take it for your bones and move on to the next issue. I had one patient, Martha, 68 years old, who'd been on this drug for 9 years. 9 years. When she came in for her annual checkup, I reviewed her records and realized no one had ever mentioned changing her treatment approach. But here's where it gets interesting and kind of funny in a dark way. The original pharmaceutical company studies buried this data in footnote 156 of a 200-page report. Footnote 156. You'd have an easier time finding your reading glasses in your grandkids' messy room. And trust me, I've tried both. And hello, for those new to my channel, I'm Dr. Saul Whitman, Chief Medical Officer at Northern Institute for Society Wellness. For over 35 years, I've treated thousands of patients with cardiovascular disease, atherosclerosis, stroke, and high blood pressure. My channel shares free medical knowledge and tips to help you save money on disease prevention, avoid expensive hospital visits, and confidently live your best life in your later years. Which medication is under suspicion? Okay, let's get specific. The medication in question is bisphosphonates, specifically drugs like alendronate, which you may know as Fosamax, or risdronate, known as Actonel. These are the most commonly prescribed osteoporosis medications in America. If you're over 65 and female, chances are your doctor has mentioned them to you at least once. Now, bisphosphonates work like tiny construction workers in your bones. Imagine your bones like an old house, constantly being renovated. You have the demolition crew cells called osteoclasts breaking down old bone, and the construction crew cells called osteoblasts building new bone. In osteoporosis, the demolition crew works too fast and your house starts falling apart. Bisphosphonates basically tell the demolition crew to slow down, take more coffee breaks, maybe call in sick a few days. This gives the construction crew time to catch up. It's a great medication, honestly. I've prescribed it hundreds of times. But here's what the 2023 Journal of Women's Health Research study found. When you slow down that demolition crew for too many years, something unexpected happens in breast tissue. The exact mechanism is still being debated, but the leading theory involves calcium metabolism and hormone receptor sensitivity. If you're an average 70-year-old woman not taking bisphosphonates, your baseline risk of getting breast cancer in the next 10 years is about 3.5%. That means out of 100 women, about 3 or 4 will develop breast cancer. Now, if you take bisphosphonates for more than 7 years, that risk increases to about 4.6%. So we're moving from 3 to 4 women per 100 up to 4 to 5 women per 100. Still serious, but not doomsday like the headlines make it sound. However, and this is a big however, if you have other risk factors like family history of breast cancer, history of hormone replacement therapy, or obesity, those numbers can climb higher. In the 2021 Harvard Aging Study, women with 2 or more risk factors taking bisphosphonates long-term saw their risk nearly double. Remember Martha I mentioned earlier? When I discovered she'd been on alendronate for 9 years, I sat her down and we had a real conversation. I asked her, Martha, when was the last time you had a bone density test? She thought about it and said, oh gosh, maybe 5 years ago? 5 years. And here's the key point. Her most recent test showed her bones were actually in pretty good shape now. Not perfect, but stable. So we had to make a choice. Keep her on the medication just to be safe and accept the increased cancer risk, or try a different strategy. We decided to do what I call a Drug holiday. That's an actual medical term, not something I made up after too much wine at the hospital Thanksgiving party. A drug holiday means stopping the medication for a period while closely monitoring bone density. We also added weight-bearing exercises, increased her calcium and vitamin D intake, and scheduled bone density checks every 18 months instead of every 2 years. 3 years later, Martha's bones remained stable and her breast cancer risk dropped back to baseline. She joked that she'd never felt better, although she complained that the exercises made her knees creak like an old ship. I told her that's just the sound of a life fully lived. Not all medications are created equal. Here's what most people don't know. Not all osteoporosis medications carry the same risk. The specific research flagged oral bisphosphonates used long-term. But there are alternatives like denosumab Proly, which works differently. It's an injection you get twice a year instead of a daily pill. The 2022 American Bone Health Association review found that denosumab showed no increased breast cancer risk in their 10-year follow-up data. Then there's raloxifene, Evista, which is interesting because it actually reduces breast cancer risk while treating osteoporosis. It's like killing two birds with one stone, except, in a medical way where no actual birds are harmed. Raloxifene is what's called a selective estrogen receptor modulator, or SERM. Think of it like a smart key that opens some locks in your body, but not others. It opens the build bone lock, but closes the stimulate breast tissue lock. However, raloxifene isn't for everyone. It can increase blood clot risk, so if you've ever had deep vein thrombosis or stroke, it's not an option. Medicine is all about trade-offs. It's like choosing between paying the electric bill or the water bill when money's tight. Sometimes there's no perfect answer, just the best answer for your specific situation. What you should do right now. First, don't panic. I've seen patients stop their medications abruptly after reading scary headlines, and that's dangerous. Suddenly stopping bisphosphonates can actually lead to rebound bone loss, meaning your bones start deteriorating faster than before you started the medication. It's like when you're holding a heavy shelf and you suddenly let go, everything crashes. Here's what you should do. Schedule an appointment with your doctor within the next month. Bring these questions written down. I'm serious about writing them down because when you're in the doctor's office, your mind goes blank faster than dementia. Question 1, how long have I been on this medication? Question 2, when was my last bone density test and what were the results? Question 3, do I have other breast cancer risk factors? Question 4, are there alternative treatments we should consider? Question 5, what would happen if we tried a drug holiday? What the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you to know, here's where I'm going to be completely honest with you. And this might upset some people in the pharmaceutical world. The reason most doctors continue prescribing bisphosphonates long-term without questioning it is because that's what we were taught. Pharmaceutical representatives come to our offices with fancy presentations showing how safe these drugs are for long-term use, but they define long-term as 5 years, not 7, not 9. When data started emerging about risks beyond that time frame, it didn't make headlines. It appeared in medical journals that busy doctors often don't have time to read because we're seeing dozens of patients every day and drowning in paperwork. It's not a conspiracy, it's just how the system works. Or rather, doesn't work. In 2024, the Journal of American Geriatric Medicine published a bombshell analysis showing that 67% of women over 65 taking bisphosphonates had been using them longer than the recommended 5-year period without any reevaluation. 67%. That's 2 out of 3 women. If your mechanic forgot to change 2 out of 3 oil filters, we'd call that negligence. But in medicine, we call it standard of care. Something's broken here, folks. Natural solutions. Now, some of you are thinking, Dr. Saul, can I just take supplements and skip medications entirely? I like your optimism, but let me be real. If you already have severe osteoporosis, supplements alone won't be enough. That's like trying to fix a collapsing bridge with duct tape. However, if you have osteopenia, that's the stage before full osteoporosis, or if you're preventing it, then yes, lifestyle changes can make a huge difference. Weight-bearing exercises are excellent. We're talking about walking, dancing, light weightlifting, even gardening if you're moving around and lifting bags of soil. The key is creating stress on your bones so they respond by becoming stronger, like how your muscles grow when you lift weights. Calcium and vitamin D are essential, but here's the trick. You also need vitamin K2, which almost nobody talks about. Vitamin K2 is like the traffic cop directing calcium to your bones instead of your arteries. Without it, calcium can end up in the wrong places, causing arterial stiffness. Good sources include fermented foods like natto, sauerkraut, and certain cheeses. I know natto tastes like socks left in a gym locker for a week. I'm Japanese American and even I struggle with it, but it works. Protein is also crucial. The 2019 Framingham osteoporosis study found that older adults eating adequate protein had significantly better bone density than those who didn't. We're talking about 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. For a 150-pound woman, that's about 70 to 80 grams of protein daily, equivalent to a palm-sized portion of chicken at lunch and dinner, plus a Greek yogurt for breakfast. Look, I'm not here to scare you away from medications that have helped millions of women prevent devastating fractures. Bisphosphonates are good drugs when used appropriately. But appropriately is the key word. Medicine isn't one size fits all, especially when you're dealing with long-term treatments and competing risks. The bottom line is this: if you've been on osteoporosis medication for more than 5 years, it's time to have a conversation with your doctor about whether continuing is still the best choice for you individually. Not for the average patient in a study, but for you with your specific bone density, your family history, your other health conditions, and your personal risk tolerance. If you found this video helpful, share it with your loved ones so they know and get checked. And please like my video so it gets recommended to more people, and subscribe so we can meet again for the next tips. If you have any questions, comment below and I'll answer. And I'm Saul. See you in the next video.